So Dr. Beckett, again, is the Assistant Director of the Academic Core and the Director of the Evidence-Based Practice Certificate Program for the Helene Fold Health Trust National Institute for Evidence-Based Practice in Nursing and Healthcare, and is an Assistant Professor of Clinical Nursing at the Ohio State University of Nursing, teaching evidence-based practice at the master's and doctoral level. She really likes to incorporate evidence-based care into what she does. Hoorah, because we all know we need that. And so Leanne Strait, who was not here yesterday, Dr. Strait is an assistant professor of clinical practice at the Ohio State University College of Nursing, teaching evidence-based practice, patient safety, nursing quality, and informatics, as well as providing community nursing clinical oversight at the pre-licensure and master's level. Dr. Strait will complete her EBP DNP postdoctorate fellowship with the Helene Fold Health Trust National Institute for Nursing and Healthcare on June 30th. So, oh, hoorah to you. That's just a day or two away.
Yay!
Yay! And you're a board certified faith community nurse. Nice. And holds the interprofessional evidence-based practice certificate. So I saw you popped on maybe after I gave instruction the last time. I'm going to give you 25 minutes to do your presentation. When that 25 minutes is up, I will pop my picture back on. That's how you know you've got 5 minutes left to close up and then have time for questions. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you for that introduction.
All right.
Let me share my screen, Cindy. Here we go. Here we go. And let's do a slideshow from the beginning. Well, good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Leanne Strait, and together with my amazing mentor, Cindy Beckett, you've already heard from her yesterday, though, we would like to discuss our EBP initiative, which is entitled Doctor of Nursing Practice, Role Clarification and Future Direction in Academia. So you'll see that we have our two names highlighted here on this slide. I really do want to recognize two other major contributors to this work, and that's Dr. Randy Massiola and Dr. Cindy Zelafro. So here we are in the flesh after that wonderful introduction from Christina. I don't need to go into this, but this at least shows you our cheery faces. And the next slide just gives you some of our disclosures. Our learning objectives are, by the end of this presentation, that you'll be able to identify the evidence-based practice methodology and what to do when a gap happens, because I'm kind of giving you the spoiler alert a bit. It happened to us. And then to recognize perceptions of the doctorally prepared faculty regarding clinical track role of the DNP, and then to be able to verbalize identified needs for further clarification of that role. So the background and significance, this really did start when I began my work in my postdoc fellowship, because we did what every good EBP initiative would start with, and that's asking some questions. And when I mentioned Dr. Massiola and Dr. Zelafro, we went to them as experts. Dr. Massiola is the DNP director for the College of Nursing, and asked them, gosh, you got me for a full year in this fellowship. What kind of things might you want to know more about? So one of the things that they were wondering about and requested me to follow up on was, what about this DNP? You know, is there a need for role clarification? Would it be helpful to have enhancements in inclusion and equity and evaluation and the promotion and scholarship criteria? Because it was felt that there was a real value in what the DNP could bring because of their expertise and strengths and impacts and unique contributions. So we started with that clinical inquiry and said, gosh, we have seen that significant increased number of DNP prepared faculty. And what about opportunities for role inclusion, role clarification? And we wanted to really take a look at job satisfaction, scholarship, and promotion, and the definition around those. So utilizing our EBP methodology, the next step was to create a PICO question. And so the PICO question that we developed is, how do faculty working in academic organizations perceive advancement opportunities for the DNP faculty? By creating that PICO question, that led us to really the roadmap of where we were going to look for information in the literature. And it just drove that search. So we looked in PubMed and CINAHL and PsycInfo, of course, and you see all of our search terms listed there. Kind of the moral to the story happened when we found a total of 86 articles. That's the purpose of this project. In the appraisal, we found 3 elements that I want to discuss briefly with you. And the first is that key elements were needed for the role clarification for doctorally prepared faculty. So in fact, we found that in the literature. We also found a really awesome survey instrument from Rutgers University, and we identified specific definitions of scholarship for both teaching and research tracks. So the next thing that we did utilizing that EBP methodology is to evidence. And so the first one that you hear, I'm just going to spend a second to kind of orient you a little bit to this busy slide. We took a look at, in the literature, what identified role clarity concerns were there for the DNP and PhD prepared faculty. So across the first horizontal line, you see that X means that it was present in that particular article, and then you see a 1 through 8 going off to the right side. 1 through 8 directly links to my references pages that you'll see at the end of this, and the articles stay consistent throughout. So the key things that we saw when we took a look at this evidence about that specific question is that role clarity concerns were listed in the areas of scholarship, teaching, and role clarification in every single one of those articles that we found. The second outcome synthesis table that we looked at was many of the articles suggested doing a survey, and I mentioned that we kind of we did find that Rutgers survey, and we wanted to say what was the content, what were the elements for that role clarification that needed to be included in a survey. So you'll see that top line check mark this time indicates that it's present in the article, and 1 through 8 links to the exact same 8 articles. So what you'll see is role delineation was consistent throughout each one of those articles. And then we wanted to take a look at scholarship role clarity was found to be of interest for a survey in all but article number 5. So what we found is we did find that Rutgers had that great survey, but it wasn't exactly what we wanted. So we wanted to grow that survey just a little bit more so we could understand a little bit more about what we needed to do in the role of clarity. So with this and the look at the data, we found that there was a significant identified gap in the literature for us about this particular topic, which then takes it from the EBP initiative realm into research. And in this time, I'm going to transition to my mentor, Dr. Cindy BECKETT, and she's going to walk through those implementation strategies and what we did for that research piece.
Thank you, Lee.
Cindy, you're welcome.
So again, with EBP, the goal is to find that best practice evidence to guide an implementation or a practice change. When there's a gap in the evidence, you have to stop, take a break, and go and then generate that new knowledge, that information. So for this process, we worked very closely with Dr. Bernadette Melnick, who is our Dean of the College of Nursing. She was very supportive of this process and had connections with the deans and directors across the country that were listed in AACN. So not only did we create, we reached out to Rutgers, got permission to modify the survey because Dr. Melnick felt like there were some key questions that weren't addressed that we wanted to make sure we included. So we got permission for that, went through IRB for approvals, and then sent out an email invitation to, I think it was probably, well, all the schools and and colleges of nursing across the United States, across all regions identified by AACN, and with the request that we would like them to share that with all of their doctorally prepared faculty, no matter what their role was, their rank, that the requirement was being doctorally prepared. And so we'd like to share a little bit more information. Oops, go ahead, next slide. So as you can see here, these are the AACN regions. We had representation from all the regions. Being from the Midwest, our largest cohort, I guess, was from the Midwest, but we did have representation from everywhere. The NAs, in looking at responses, were, it's hard to know exactly what that response would be, but my thought is there are so many online nursing programs that are employing doctorally prepared faculty, and it may be that these individuals worked for one of these programs that crosses the country, so they're not located in one region. This was the breakdown of the participants. So it was about 50-50, a little bit, whoops, sorry. A little bit more on the DNP level as opposed to the PhD level. But we also had some DNSs, an EDD, and people that reported having multiple doctorates. And I'm not sure what, I would love to get the other answer, but 3.8% said that they were other doctorally prepared faculty. And I know within our College of Nursing, we have a pharmacist and we have some additional individuals with doctorate degrees, but not in nursing. So that may be where that falls through. To the next slide. So one of the key questions that we ask is, should clinical track be tenure eligible? DNP faculty will fall under the clinical track and not tenured track in the majority of programs that we talk to. But what this was to us a very interesting finding. 57% said yes, we should be, this should be something that is considered. They should have the same opportunities as PhD faculty to achieve tenure. Now, 22% said maybe. So that really got us, it's like perked our curiosity there. 12% said no, 9% didn't answer. But as we were trying to, assess and analyze the data, we kept coming back to this maybe. And in talking with a few of our peers that actually participated in the survey, they shared that, well, they would have liked to have had more clarification on what that might look like. And it really supported the concepts from the literature that we need more role delineation, we need clarification. So what we're planning to do as a follow-up to the quantitative survey is to do focus groups here at OSU to, and invite all doctorally prepared faculty to see what they feel like would help people if they were on the fence to say yes to supporting tenure eligible, or would they clearly say no? So we're going to do some more exploration here. Go ahead to the next slide. We had open-ended concepts that through many of the questions, as well as a question at the very end that said, what else would you like for us to know about this process? Well, our DNP comments were not quite as wordy as our PhD comments. If you notice, the circle on the other side, or the wordle, is much larger with the PhDs. But what we found fairly consistent across both groups were a lot of the same terms, a lot of the same concerns, a lot of the same issues were brought up by both DNP and PhD faculties. So there's a lot of similarity between the two, but also the opportunity to expand the definitions. Go ahead to the next slide. So we did a thematic analysis of the qualitative data. And what we found were 5 key themes: appreciation, role, scholarship, culture, and faculty prep. With appreciation, terms like valuing, respecting, being recognized for the work that you do. and being adequately compensated for the work that you do. There's a discrepancy between clinical track and tenure track in many organizations. There's also a significant difference between the DNP and the PhD from the comments that were shared. For role, having a clear definition of the expectations of the role, both for the PhD and the DNP faculty, and having promotion and tenure processes and documents that can help clarify that role opportunity. And also something that was spoken both by PhD and DNP, right now there's not really a clear path for a DNP faculty to advance into leadership positions within academia. And that was something that many of them really wanted, that opportunity. Scholarship, defining scholarship in terms of teaching, research, and other opportunities is really critical. The role of the DNP has primarily been defined as that clinical teaching role, but there's opportunities for evidence-based practice. There's opportunity for expansion of that scholarship. So this really needs to be further clarified. Workload was a key factor across both the DNP and the PhD in terms of not being able to get to scholarship because teaching loads were so heavy. So that's definitely something for consideration. Culture, having an organization that really supports and embraces the clinical track or the DNP faculty role. There were some comments that really felt like elitism, that the PhDs were the only ones that should be teaching. In fact, we had one quote that said that really there should be only those that had a PhD in education, in nursing education, that should be teaching nursing. And there's very few of those out there. The business of academia, we can get lost in because we've always done it this way, because this is how we've always run academic settings, and not thinking outside the box. Mental health came out as a huge, huge factor. People are feeling stressed, overwhelmed, and often very dissatisfied with their roles because of the role confusion. A lot of disparity between PhD and DNPs, and the reason to leave was very highly verbalized in terms of the qualitative comments as well as the quantitative data. That dissatisfaction, low job satisfaction, mental stress, all of those were factors that led to reasons to leave early. And another one that was kind of an interesting theme that we didn't anticipate was faculty prep. Both the DNP and PhD faculty talked about the need to have formal preparation of faculty teaching in colleges of nursing. That in the PhD and the DNP programs, they don't receive any type of formal training in curricular development, assessment, any of the things that you would have to get those specific courses for. And a belief that this is really important, that if we're going to be growing and mentoring our faculty, there needs to be some sort of process, whether it's an internal orientation and mentoring process or some sort of formal education. Next slide. So in summary, the majority of the doctorally prepared faculty really believed that clinical track should be eligible for tenure, and scholarship definitions really need to be clarified for the clinical track appointment, promotion, and tenure process. That will help kind of get rid of some of that disparity and help bring everybody on an even kind of an even scale. Next slide. Oops, it's stuck. There we go. So we'll be doing our focus groups in the fall, and to really explore the maybe, and then we'll complete the analysis for both the quantitative and qualitative elements. And from there, we'll take that evidence, review back the literature review and that body of evidence that we found prior to this study, and we're going to be turning it over to a group of stakeholders here at the College of Nursing to kind of finish out the EBP process. So this is where Lee will continue to take that lead on this initiative into the fall. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Lee, to talk about how you're going to wrap all this up.
Thanks, Cindy. So we're back to evidence-based clinical decision-making. And so the key for us, we're going to be working with those focus groups, just like Dr. Beckett talked about, But identification of a stakeholder group is going to be the next most critical step, I think. So we're clearly going to make sure that we have representation from DNPs, from PhDs, and from folks who are in the clinical and in the tenure track. And included in that group, we would like to have some associated faculty representation. Those names and assignments or opportunities will be given to us by our contributors that we talked about, Dr. Macciola, Dr. Zelafro, our dean of the college, and then by folks who have told us that they would be interested in serving on this group because of their interest in the content. So we'll integrate the research study evidence with internal and external evidence, clinical faculty expertise, faculty preferences and values to develop that recommendation for the role clarification. The stakeholder group responsibilities will include to look at the review of our survey analysis. So Dr. Beckett and I will be presenting to them what we learned in the research part of this EBP initiative. We'll compare OSU College of Nursing survey results with those that we found in the other AACN colleges that participated. We're going to determine, we're going to lead them to determine the clinical track appointment, promotion, and tenure options. Identify specific definitions of scholarship, which was one of those needs that we identified early on in this initiative, and report back to the OSU College of Nursing leadership and the faculty so that we can move forward to make some sustainable changes in this process. I want to skip past this question slide just for a second. My next slide is references, and on those all important synthesis tables that we talked through, and I talked about 1 through 8, that's the articles, and the order never changed. I left them 1 through 8, but number 9 was not included on the synthesis table because it was the survey from Rutgers University. So with that being said, gosh, Christina, I haven't seen your face, so we might be just a couple minutes early. Are there any questions?
Oh,
I don't know.
I have comments and or questions always.
Okay.
So there are still like 4 minutes left and then your question time. So yes, you did have a few, and I'm surprised because I thought too, wow, you had so much info. I'm like, oh, they are a little early, but that's okay. We like early. We can chat then. So one was what when Cindy was talking, and she said that, DNPs and PhDs alike don't teach faculty in nursing how to be faculty. I have to tell you, my PhD in nursing was a specialization in nursing ed from Indiana University of Pennsylvania. They decided they wanted to grow their own. I was there with a master's and told you need a PhD if you want a tenure track appointment instead of being temporary. They taught us how to develop curricula, how to do assessment, evaluation, how to play in academia. It was as much as I was like a 2-year-old when they told me I had to get a PhD. I'm like, no, I don't want to. 2-year-old, I got done with my first semester and I went, okay, I now understand why you say this is what what we need, those of us that didn't have the PhD, why we need that. So I chuckle. There are a couple of those programs out there, and I'm fortunate. I worked for IUP at the time. They had just developed it. I was their second cohort, and I cannot say enough about just how much I learned during that. So anyone looking for it, they even developed secondhand a DNP to PhD track that cut out the entire first year of the PhD coursework for those DNPs that were getting so much pushback, like you're finding, discrimination, not on the same pay scale, not allowed to be tenure track. They actually developed a track for those folks and had a decent response with DNPs coming through because they got tired of all the pushback. And IUP was a place that would not hire DNPs except as temporaries. You could not become a permanent faculty member there without an EDD or a PhD. So I just like, wow, your stuff really rang true. It brought me right back to my PhD program and all the discussions we had about this exact topic. So thank you very much. I'm intrigued. If you're looking for truly outside people on your for your panel, I'm interested. If you want to shoot me an email, I would be happy to join.
Absolutely.
Right up my alley of what I would love to see what you're doing and be a part of. So
Wonderful. Thank you for that.
Well, and we will be disseminating this both internally to OSU, but also externally to the schools and colleges of nursing that participated, because it's important information for all of us. And you were very fortunate that there was a program that included that. I mean, I did my master's in nursing education, so I had the advantage of having, you know, all of those courses, but my PhD didn't have anything about teaching. It was you were assumed that you had the skills to teach, but they were focusing on teaching, you know, how to be a researcher and not to be a faculty. You know, and so I think it's a really valid, and it was a surprising point because that's not what we were asking, but I think it's loud and clear across the country that we need a formal process to make sure that we're supporting our faculty so that we don't lose them all.
Oh,
and I think the other important point with that is that it rang true with both the folks with the DNP and with the PhD. And these were open-ended comments. So it was really odd for me to say, oh my gosh, Cindy, I'm seeing the same thing in this comment that from a DNP that I saw in this comment from PhD. So it was very interesting.
Well, you know, my other thought in this whole discussion, I always say, and I'll say to my students, we in nursing shoot ourselves in the foot every day. We have so many pathways to so many things that nobody outside of us, and even many of the just graduating pre-licensure students, don't have a clue why you or I are called doctor. No clue. They don't get it. And I don't know why they're a doctor, because they're not an MD, right? So I think we just shoot ourselves in the foot, and your work is going to help clarify that for a lot of folks and give us a place to point to. This is what we mean. This is what this means. So I truly appreciate it. And again, I tend to hog the conversation. Folks on here, anyone else? You can put a question in the chat. You can speak up. I just generally love conversation, and this hit home for me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
This is Dr. Murph, Sharon Murph. I just want to say it's a very interesting study. And just a comment, our School of Nursing is, I guess, sounds like it's unique in that we have more DNP faculty who are on tenure track. We've had a couple of those who were part-time individuals, but it seems that, well, in fact, I'm the only PhD in the graduate program. And my PhD is in public health, community health, education and promotion. So it seems that there is more leverage or more, what do you want to say, more support for individuals who have a PhD in nursing. Like someone else said, my master's was in nursing education, and I've taught for nearly 30 years, and you know, I've had a lot of things to my you know, to my vita, but it's really interesting. And those who are DNPs at our program, they went to a school that incorporated nursing education. So they didn't only have just the clinical side, they did have 9 or 12 hours of nursing education courses. And so they're, you know, on tenure track.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Dr. Murph, where are you teaching?
Grambling State University in Grambling, Louisiana.
Rambling. Excellent. We would like to reach out to you because it would be wonderful to talk to you to see what kinds of, what your documents look like for promotion and tenure, because that, as we start to kind of create something different, it would be great to see what else is out there. And it may be that you have a model that we could replicate.
Okay, sure.
Oh, and I
That
see
would be great.
Janice has a question.
Yep. Janice, you're up. We just need to unmute you.
There we go. I'm unmuted now. Sorry about that. At my School of Nursing, we've done things just a little bit differently. Whether you come in with a PhD, an EDD, or a DNP, whether you're part-time, full-time, or adjunct, everybody has to go through an orientation process that has been set up specifically for our School of Nursing. Because we know that not everybody has that background in classroom teaching or simulation teaching or familiarity and comfort with the technology that we use. So we have our faculty go through, basically it's a year-long orientation where they're mentored by someone else, but we go through our list of competencies through NLN, and we go over adult learning theory, CUSIN competencies, state nursing education regulations, and then we look at the technologies that we use, our ATI products, clinical evaluations, how to develop syllabi, and of course, if our staff are familiar with that, that's one thing, but if they're not, it gives everybody an opportunity to have their questions answered and to start at that basic level. And that's different than our, clinical track and our tenure track. Everybody, doesn't matter what track you're on, goes through this orientation. And we really have found that it really helps with a faculty.
Oh, that's amazing. And where are you teaching, Janice?
University of Lynchburg, Virginia.
Okay.
And if I can, I copied the link here. Let's see if I can put that in to the chat. Yeah. And
Oh,
that's
awesome.
our document, our orientation document.
Wow.
And basically we meet with the new staff 1 hour a week, every week for the entire school year. They have an NLN competency test they do at the beginning. It just gives them an idea of where their strengths and weaknesses are. And we do that again at the end, make sure that they have met all of the competencies and feel comfortable.
That is a wonderful model. Thank you so much for sharing. It's what we should all be doing.
How many of you, when you went to your first job as a nursing educator, I'm going to tell you my experience was I was sitting in a room at IUP. I was just master's level at the time. In clinical, we gave tests, the NCLEX tests. It wasn't just clinical and evaluations, it was tests. And I can remember someone looking at me and going, oh, so, in your clinical group, you're going to create exams. And they're looking right at me and I'm like, me? You mean me? I'm teaching clinical. And then I had one lecture class and the chair said, oh, and again, pointing at me, did you pick a book yet? We start on Monday. Y'all don't have a book? Like, what are you talking about? I went up to the chair at the end of that two-day, Janice, not a year, 2 day of nurse orientation and said to the chair, how about if I resign now and save you the hassle of firing me later? And just went home in tears, bawled the whole way home. I can't imagine being introduced with, oh, we're going to give you a year of orientation. My word, how nice is that? Somebody's doing it right. You're right. Wow. And I would tell you, the reason we have time to sit here and chat is that what I realized on the program from Angel, who I could have given her more time, there was a half-hour gap between her end and your start. And I didn't realize it till I was looking to see what time you were supposed to be done. And I went, oh, Angel, I'm so sorry. We could have chatted a bit more. But so we've gotten to 11 before the next one starts. If anyone else has questions, otherwise we'll probably start a couple minutes early. This is what great discussion. Anyone else have anything to add to our lovely discussion on DNPs and PhDs and nursing ed in general? Cindy Fensky, I see her face. Maybe she has a question and she's going to chat with us. She says no.
I don't at this moment. I'm preparing for my presentation, which is coming up next. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share.
Yes.
And I really appreciate all your comments. And it's great to hear that there are universities out there that are already embracing that, needing for training. And I think that's amazing. We need to, more of us do that. But thank you again
Thank
for
you,
the
everyone.
opportunity to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ladies. And I look forward to an email from you on what you need from me, because I truly
Very
do.
good.
And I will stick as we speak right now, I will stick my email in the chat.
Thank you.